Hey, welcome to another edition of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show, our ongoing miniseries where we break down key updates and design questions straight from the development of Shade Protocol. These episodes are built around the game's community engagement series Devs Ask You, or DAUs, where Kendall and the team not only show us changing, but invite fans to shape the journey with them. After an incredible Kickstarter campaign that reached 946% of its funding goal, the future of the game has changed in a very real way. So today, we're talking with Kendall about what this milestone means, how it happened, and where Shade Protocol goes from here. Be sure to follow us and Little Legendary on our socials and YouTube channel, and be sure to join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice directly with the dev team. Links to everything will be in the description down below, and with all that being said, it's Razzle Dazzle time! One thing I've always appreciated about Shade Protocol, and this is to a point you made earlier about the community, is how transparent you've been through the DAUs. Like, this is one of the biggest draws for anyone in looking for a community. I think it was for me, for sure. It clearly shows that this project, if you would, is being run differently than maybe some others. Like you're taking extra care. Anyways, now that thousands of backers are along for the ride, and you've talked about this before, but I just want this to be an opportunity for you to elaborate, does that transparency become even more important?
Yes, and the self-control of like what we share,
Right,
is also very important now. So, like, I mean, and for people that might not know, like joining the podcast for the first time, like DAUs are we have a Discord server. In our Discord server, we do. People think they're updates. They're not really updates. They are, I think, a better way of saying it's like this. It's a community feedback. Like we say, hey, we're working on this weapon. Here's what the weapon does. Here are design goals for the weapon. Here's a bunch of questions about it. Let me show you a video of how it works right now in a dev. So it's very, very early, and it's, sometimes very ugly. And then people just start, ranting. Like, we have a lot of people that just go, and just, there's this new guy in our server, Malthus. He can freaking go. I'm joking. No, but the whole point is, a lot of people are very excited about a bunch of things, and they are just the right energy. Like, they'll show up and they'll say, like, oh, you're talking about, like, something, I don't know, like we're working on the fist instrument, right? Like the punching weapon, this huge metallic gloves. Like, there's a bunch of people in our community that love fighting games, so they get really, really excited, and they'll go and they'll do research, they'll find other games, they'll learn in the process. They'll tell you, oh, this is how like smears work on this other game, and this might be a good thing, and it's like such a cool thing to see live, to see like people. It's like a give and take between the community learning and us ingesting as much as we can from genres. We are not all, we're a very small team. We don't quite have like, the entire breadth of knowledge of the gaming industry. So it's very helpful. But I guess the point I was making is those things, we try to do them, like we used to do them very often. We've had to like slow down a lot because it's just not realistic for us to do that. They're gonna come back to being more of a common thing once we get someone to help us with social media, and once we get a producer, I'll have more time to do them myself. But I think recently we did one for like the fist instrument, right? And what we've done with this, which is a little different, is we posted it, but then we've kept updating it, constantly, right? So we keep putting stuff in there, and we keep saying, hey, people say it'd be really cool if we had like some sort of like kind of Shoryuken like uppercut, right? And we're saying, you know what, like we have something similar, but maybe we could do something like more like this. What do you guys think? And then we do a draft, we ship it, people see it, people give us feedback, and then we keep working. Now here's a grab, and here's how grabs work. And we want to do grabs, so we want Zura to punch the person that she's throwing. Like I don't necessarily want it to be like she grabs and does this throw, because the thing is about it's a mixture of like boxer and grappler, right? So we have to show that so that people understand, right? Because if not, they think like throwing is better. And then you show them, as, oh, that's super cool. Maybe it could be a little bit more like this, or maybe this couple of frames could change to that, and then that is the magic. The magic is what happens in those conversations. So if you're listening to this and you're not in our Discord server, you're missing out, because it's a really cool experience that I don't think most devs are doing today. Out of maybe it's a time thing. It could be many reasons. I don't want to speculate, but it's probably the saving grace of Shake Protocol, in terms of like, I think it has saved us months, if not years of dev,
Yeah.
because we know that what we're making, people like it.
Yeah.
That sounds like, well, I mean, you should know. Well, I mean, no, like you don't until you ask, right? Because you might make something and you're 100% convinced everybody wants it, and then I don't know where you make something called Melodies and nobody likes it, and you spend a lot of energy making it. So I think it's very important to talk to people, but you also have to take risks.
Mm.
And DAUs let us take risks. Like, we get to show stuff that's like not fully baked, and people just get to tell us like very honestly like how they feel about it. Some people, I think, are a little bit kind of childish about it. Like, maybe they think they deserve to have an opinion. That's not the point. The point is to do it together, right? So I think the people that have felt more at home with DAUs are people that have a good way of expressing what they like or they don't like about something without having to come across as like confrontational or challenging or whatnot. But then there's a bunch of people that get it, and then there's other people that watch them and go like, oh, that's how I get some feedback in that people will like. And then like, it's like an educational thing. So you're building a community that's teaching itself how to get the game they want. As convoluted as that sounds, it's literally a community that is teaching itself how to help us make the game they want. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy to see. I mean, of course, some of this is engineered. I don't want to take away from the genius of the process, but I also don't want to pretend that we knew it was going to work out. So I'm very proud that it is working, but it is very challenging. So yeah, and in the end, like we keep doing this, and I think in the process of it, the transparency issue is mostly that we are, given that we have more resources now. Normally, what happens? This is just the truth. Most games that raise as much as we raise, they delay the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what wouldn't say always, but very normally that's what happens. We don't want to be those guys. We don't blame the games that do that. We understand that whenever you have more resources, you have more time to do a better game, and that overall is a good thing for everybody involved. We're just trying our best to stay to our goal, to the best of our ability, and in the process of sticking to that goal, that also means that we are going to start producing a lot faster, because now we have to fit what we wanted to make and what we can make, if that makes sense. Like, so the timeline stays the same, but there's a lot more things to do in that timeline.
Right.
So we need more people. But if we don't get the people, we still have to do it. And in the process of doing that, then we have to show stuff. There's a limit to what we can show. So this is all the super long-winded version of saying transparency becomes an important thing that we have to be very careful with, and we have to manage what we show you, not to not show something that we've made, but to keep the whimsy and the surprise and the allure of a new game, right? Like you for those of you guys that are more closer to me in age, like I remember like opening that case, the first original Final Fantasy VII, opening that case and looking at it and saying like, this is like, I mean, war CDs, holy crap, like like this is so much, right? And in my mind, I'm like, I'm about to like get to experience something wonderful that I haven't before. I also don't want people to lose that. I don't want them to make it to the game knowing everything that's happened. So the answer is we have to be more transparent now, especially with like our cost, our challenges, what we're doing with the money, and I have good plans to do that. We also have to be even more careful, because the new things that we're gonna do that are in the goals of the Kickstarter are probably things that we can show because people know they exist. But the stuff that we're gonna make that isn't on that list, we probably need to be more careful with because it's probably gonna level up a lot. And as those things level up, it's probably better to keep some of that for when the players get to experience the game. So yeah, it's gonna be a couple of years now where we're gonna have to be very tempted to show stuff that we are making that is probably like just we're super hyped, but we just can't.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see if we can tolerate that. I'm not well known for my
You never
secrecy,
spoil.
but we'll see.
You never spoil.
Never but we are very committed to this. We're very committed to doing it well. So some of it will get out of hand because some stuff we might be very precious about. You know what I mean? Like some of it we might be too like, oh, but no one should know about this. But I mean, maybe at some point we'll be like, you know what, this is a great marketing thing.
Yeah.
Like if I saw this, like, if I got to see this, I would want to know more about that game. So then at that point, we'll do that. Not to over explain that, but like I would say that the new Fist instrument, it's probably, I think it's the best instrument we've designed.
Wow.
By not a fraction of, like, by multiple times. It's so much better.
Big margin.
Than everything we made.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's way better in terms of how it plays, how it feels, how it's being drawn, the effects that we're putting into it, the controls, and how the buttons feel when you're doing certain things. So what do you think we're gonna do? Like, we're gonna keep working? Like, no. I mean, we're gonna probably do the next instrument, and then we're gonna start over, and go to the shield, and then go to the spear, and then go to the axe. We're gonna have to do them all again, and that's okay. This is what a good game looks like. Where I'm going with that is like, it's probably okay for, like, right now we might be like, oh, we should not show, like, the world cut, right? Because people need to see it. And then you show the world cut, and then later you make the fist weapon. And you're like, oh, this is so much better. Like, why was I so worried about showing this? So as long as we know that we're going to level things up, we can show more. So I think we're not going to be. We need to get away from the idea of being so precious about it. Like, some of it people will love, but at the same time not suffer seeing, right? Like, I think everybody wants to know all the weapons of the game. I think that's a fair thing to expect to see.
Right.
Am I saying there might not be a surprise here and there? No, of course, but generally speaking, you want to know what you're gonna have in the game, right? I don't think that's an unfair expectation. So yeah, the short answer: transparency is critical. We've been probably one of the most transparent indies out there. Making a game at this scale, I would say. Not that, of course, there's other people that are doing like daily devlogs and streaming their development. Like the guy from Insignia, like that guy is wild. I mean, someone I deeply admire. Just crazy that he does pretty much all of his work on stream. And he's just showing how the game is made from scratch. It's a gorgeous game. So, there's other people doing some of this. I think at our scale, we're probably very lonely in that space. And
yeah,
I think we have
it's
a
highly
responsibility
organized.
to get it right.
Yeah, for sure.
If we get it right, people will do it more. Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, last question for this episode. For everyone who's been following Shade Protocol since the very beginning, and for all the new fans who discovered it through the Kickstarter, through this podcast, through the social medias, whatever, what should they be most excited about as development enters this next chapter?
Oh, that's very difficult. I should have read that question in advance. I don't have a good answer. I would tell you, like, I can tell you what I'm most excited about. I could tell you that because I think it's unfair. I think the team is is probably like very divided on this because there's so many cool things. But I am most excited. I'm most excited about the world building, I would say. Like we've had some meetings recently about how we're gonna do like the bastions and how we are like changing. We're deeply changing their the way that we think about them. Like, we had them as like this big machines, and they always had like a more, of course, complicated thing that you guys are. You guys don't know a lot of the story yet. Well, they've always meant a lot more, and they were spectacular. But I'm thinking more of like, now that we can afford it, you know, what would it be like to like have, I don't know what the word is. It's not really like a friendship, but like, what if you now get to have a relationship with the Bastions? Now they get to be characters versus just entities, right? What does that look like? And I think like that's the kind of stuff I'm deeply excited about. Like, I want the world to feel like something like it's an anime. Like, it's an anime. It's in my mind, like that's how I explain it. That's how I interview people for the game. Like, pretty much like we are making an anime, right? That you are playing. And some people might not love anime, and if you don't love anime, then I don't know what's wrong with you. But I mean more like in the sense that I get it. Like, it's so overly used that maybe it's kind of on the danger zone of being kind of tropey. But when you truly see games, this is something that we were talking about literally yesterday, I think, with the team. Like, we're worried. This is the conversation we had yesterday for 2 hours. We're worried about hit stop versus slowdown. That's the team you funded. That's who we are. Like, we're worried about that. We're having long-winded conversations about like, should we be doing slowdowns versus hit stop? As in, like, of course we'll have hit stop anyway, but like, anime moments. Like, if somebody's about to put their punch, like their entire, they're gonna punch you in the face. In an anime, right the moment, the fraction of a moment before they hit your face is where the camera's gonna slow down, and then they're gonna hit you, and you're gonna fly off the screen, right? Pixel art doesn't lend itself well to do that. And we were talking yesterday about like, okay, but what if we could? Like, but what if we could figure it out, right? And that's like that's what this team is all about. Figuring out like, how can we make those magical moments even more magical, right? We don't have to give you like, 100 hours of gameplay if we can give you 20 hours you won't forget. But some things, of course, we say, well, like this other, here's 10 games that have done hit stop. And when I say hit stop, I mean like pausing the game is what I more mean. So that's a better description. Like, pausing the game have done, and they've done it incredibly well, right? Like, blasphemous parry, like, pretty much the game fully stops, and you get to see this beautiful moment with like the dark screen and everything. It's just gorgeous. Versus other games that do slowdown, they do it because they are digital games, and they can afford, the movement of the character can be, puppeted, and it works fine. So whenever you're looking at a team like us, that's the kind of stuff we're worried about, because we want to make a game that feels that like you're playing an anime. And I know a lot of people say, well, there's a ton of anime games. Not the same. That's not what I'm saying. We're not an anime game. I'm saying I want you to play a game that feels like an anime. It's difficult. And then maybe anime is not the exact word. I want you to play a game that feels cinematic, like an action movie that you're in control of at the 2D space. I want you to feel like that level of like, whenever you're fighting an enemy, there's no button you can press that makes Zura look stupid. It is impossible in the game. Like, if you press a button, she does something cool, and you feel, I did that, right? So orchestration there and all of that at the gameplay level is deeply important. But because I know that people know that that's what we're all about, what I'm most excited about is like how does that translate into a wonderful world? And I'm not talking about biomes or areas or like, oh, look at this beautiful cinematic shot in the background of like a big robot. No, I'm talking like, how does a, how does a gigantic robot that is almost godlike talk to you? And how do you perceive that? And like, what does that feel like? Like when they look at you, does your controller shake because you're scared? No, it's the little things. But as those things start to bake, um, it's that feeling that I tell about. One of the inspirations of the game is like Shadow of the Colossus, right? I remember seeing that for the first time, and like the camera panning from this guy on a horse running towards this ginormous being that you can't see the end of, and I'm like, that is the wonder, the sense of wonder of that, and why are you running towards it? You idiot. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is what are you thinking? But that feeling, I want, I think we're missing that, because right now the way we do it, and I'm not pointing fingers. I'm saying the solution is not like, hyper realistic freckles. The solution is wonder. Like, we have to make the moments wonderful. They have to be spectacular, and we could do that through short dialogue that doesn't require you to like, get a thesaurus for every word. Um, no acronyms, just short conversations that characters are saying stuff that they mean, uh, and just outright creativity in terms of whenever we're making something. Like, we talk about this all the time. We say, "Oh, here's this Bastion, and how is it going to be, and how does it look, and this and that," and then we say, "Well, but is it the coolest thing we've ever made?" And we say no, and then we say like, "Great, then it's not done." Great. I mean, we're working on it. I mean, I think it's very obvious that we're working on a couple bastions, but we've been talking about one of the bastions that we're making, and I've said this probably in every meeting about it. It's like, this needs to be the coolest thing we ever make. And then the next thing we go to make, you think I'm not going to say it again? I'm going to say it again. This needs to be the coolest thing we ever make. But it is true. At that moment, it is true. At this moment, this has to be the coolest thing we ever make. So yeah, I mean, I guess to finish there, the world building, the fact that I want that world to feel like there's so many problems, and people say, well, I just want a game where I could start and I know the thing I'm trying to solve, and I just go and solve that, right? I want to make that game. Like, I want to make a game that people have problems that don't involve you, right? I mean, that's a real world, right? That's a world where there's things happening that you're not important to, that you just get to see. Like, these things happening. Like, maybe you go to a place, and there's two characters are arguing, and then you leave, and then the story continues, and you come back, and the two characters, are no longer there, and they're obviously angry, and one of them like ran away, and the other one stayed, and then you come back like maybe 10 hours later, and the other one is sitting on a cliff, like reminiscing, like waiting for their friend because they never came back, right? The world doesn't revolve around you at every moment. It's this. I want that kind of stuff to happen. I want you to feel that the world's alive and that you are helping it along, but it has its own uh, energy. It exists on its own without you, and you, more than a hero, you are a vantage point. I think like that's the most beautiful way I could put it. Like, you are a vantage point. You are an observer of this wonderful world that, with or without you, will continue, um, or maybe not, but not, not in the most literal sense, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm deeply excited about that, and I really hope people will gravitate to that. And if they don't, you still have incredible combat. You have a bunch of bosses. You have incredible areas. You have a good combat system. You can build your own character. I mean, we have so much stuff to people to gravitate to, which is also why I think the game has a lot of space to summon people of different backgrounds. And if you just like fighting, you're gonna have a great combat system. If you just like story, we're gonna give you like a very cinematic story. If you just like collecting things, we have 100 snacklets to collect, like handmade by people, like et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, I think we're doing a good job in filling all the gaps of all the things that people want. without making any one of them more important than the rest. I pick world building, and I know like Danny would pick the areas that he's making, and Durrani would probably pick the combat system and the animations. Ilya would probably pick the wall cut. I know that each person has his own opinion, but that's also part of the secret sauce of the game, that there's enough of them for you to gravitate to. That doesn't take away from it.
This has been another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show. Want to help with Shade Protocol becomes? Join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice with the dev team directly. Go follow Shade Protocol on Kickstarter, and if you like this breakdown, check out our past spotlights and interviews with Kendall right here on the Razzle Dazzle Show. Remember, the future of Emeria is still being written.